There's a bunch of reaction videos doing the rounds in the retro gaming community, responding to a Facebook post claiming that YouTubers are ruining retro gaming. How? Well, I can't find the original post, so I don't know for sure, but based on the videos, their argument goes that YouTubers like the Angry Video Game Nerd, Pat the NES Punk and the Game Chasers, among others, are giving exposure to old, obscure games. As people learn about these games, they go out and buy them, and this drives up the prices. Not only that, but people are more aware of their value, meaning you're less likely to find random people selling ultra rare games for coppers at car boot sales. There have been numerous videos explaining what's wrong with this argument far better than I could. I'll put some links in the description, but the gist goes that YouTubers aren't the problem. It's scalpers looking to buy rare games and hold them for ransom, as well as collectors that do pay these ridiculous prices for games. I disagree when people say that YouTubers are keeping retro gaming alive, but I do think they're giving these games more exposure than they would have got otherwise. Be honest, how many of you heard of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties before the AVGN episode about it? Did you want to play Windjammers before it was shown on Giant Bomb? You get where I'm going with this. But as said, others have done a better job of explaining that already. Instead, I want to talk about this as it relates to fanboys. Nostalgia is like a drug that's good in small doses but can cause delusions if used too much. I have no problem with people liking or even preferring old games. The kind of people I'm going to talk about are those that take things too far, to the point of denying reality. For example, if you think Mario 3 is the best game ever made, fine. But if you start calling Call of Duty players racist, then you're taking things too far. You can like Thief, but holding modern games to an impossibly high standard that not even the original Thief reaches, and then attacking modern games that fail to meet that standard, is ridiculous. Until now, I had assumed that these extreme fanboys had gone as far as they reasonably could, complaining about the lack of innovation while only buying retro re-releases and first-party Nintendo sequels, and condemning games for having different voice actors than the classics. But now we have people being nostalgic about nostalgia. RGT85 mentioned this in his video, but it bears repeating. While it might be nice to think that 10 years ago you could pick up a Neo Geo and some classic games for £10 and still have enough change left over to grab a takeaway on the way home, the truth is that there have almost always been rare and expensive games. You might have some fond memories of the bargains you managed to find over the years, but old games are a finite resource and thus are going to become less common as more of them find their way into the hands of collectors. Another issue is the nature of games collecting. In order to explain this, I'm going to tell a story. Once upon a time, a 30-year-old man was walking down the high street when he spotted something in the charity shop window. A game he remembered playing in his youth. He goes in and buys the game, and a quick trip to eBay later, and he has himself a Sega Mega Drive to play it on. Sure, it's dusty and worn, but it's just like the one from his childhood. He plays the game he remembers so fondly, and finally manages to beat the boss that he could never beat all those years ago. He looks for other games he remembers from his childhood, all of the old Sonic games, Desert Strike among others. Some are more obscure than others, but in the end he owns his entire childhood Mega Drive collection. But then something bad happens. He wants that feeling again, but he's played all, or at least most, of his childhood Mega Drive games. He then branches out, collecting other games and systems. It isn't long before he's exhausted all of the common and popular games he could find at almost any car boot sale. Now he's chasing rare and obscure games, many of which go for well into triple digits on eBay. He can't afford that. No longer able to find joy in the nostalgia he liked, he starts blaming YouTube. Back in his day, he could get a couple of dozen games for a few pounds from a charity shop. Now he's paying outrageous prices on eBay. To put it another way, I don't know anyone who had heard of, or let alone played, Musha or Herzog's Y back in the day. Now we're told that no Mega Drive collection is complete without them. There's also a question I think most collectors, even the good ones, seem unwilling to ask themselves. That question is is this game worth the money? I own a game called Gotcha Force. It's a game I bought back when it was new, and my memory of it was that it was a mediocre action game that takes heavy inspiration from Pokemon. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw a video talking about it as if it was some classic, and how it was the centerpiece of his GameCube collection. Turns out the game is somewhat rare, but a game being hard to find doesn't make it good. So, is Musha really a game that's worth the £300 asking price, or is it only held up as a must-own game simply because it's rare? As I said earlier on, I can't find the original post, so I'm making a lot of assumptions based on the debunking videos. That said, it could be argued that retro gamers have finally got what they wished for. They lamented that not enough people appreciate the classics, but as more people buy retro games, some are crying foul. I don't know if these are the same people, but it wouldn't surprise me given how nostalgic fanboys often behave. But in the end, the answer is still no. YouTubers aren't ruining retro games. Thanks for watching. Bye.